Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, founder and CEO at Riderflex. We hope you enjoy today's podcast. And as a reminder, please subscribe to the Riderflex show for updates on new episodes. And by the way, if you haven't already, check out the book we recently launched, The Riderflex Guide, Inspiring and Hiring, available for purchase on Amazon. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Try the #1 marketing platform for small business. Everything you need from design to marketing to CRM. Learn more at marketing360.com. Marketing 360. Fuel your brand.
You got short sleeve on, man. What did it? It must have got up to 30 today in Colorado. What's the temperature?
25.
Whoa, it's warm compared to the last 2 days, right?
It was there earlier this week. It was like 7 one day. So.
Bro, you look like you lost some weight, man. What are you, like 30 pounds lighter? What's going on with you? Did you lose some weight?
Damn, I don't know about that. No, I think I'm actually heavier than I was before.
Are you sure? I'm
pretty positive, but I whatever. I'll take the compliment for sure.
Okay, well, I don't know. From what I remember, you're looking good.
Well, thank you very much. Maybe they'll like cut up the t-shirt or something like that. More flattering.
I like it.
Body style.
I like that. Now that's not y'all. You don't have. That's not your t-shirt, is it? You don't do t-shirts yet. I don't think.
No, not ours. Not yet. With t-shirts anyway. It's funny though. I sometimes serve as a stand-in fit model for some of our products.
I like it.
I don't know if that's because I love our products, but at the same time, I'm also like, they're like, yeah, we need somebody. We like using you because you like are a representative of our like soft body customer. And I'm like, soft body. Is that the term? Soft body? I think that's their nice way of saying like, yeah, you're not a jack. Because the other term they use is hard body. Either you're a hard body or a soft body. And I'm in the soft body category.
I'm thinking I'm going to be in the soft body category myself. It gets harder. It gets harder, by the way. I'm 55 and damn, bro, I was skinny until 40, right? Like up until 40. I mean, I could just eat whatever I wanted. I didn't matter, right?
Yeah.
And after 40, then I was like, oh, okay, it's getting a little. And after 50, shit, you can even go on a diet, and you go on a diet and you're still gaining weight.
I know. I actually feel like the hardest thing for me is having kids, because I'm like, okay, all that time that I know age is for sure a factor. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know, the difference between when I, had kids and didn't, or just being like, okay, or 30 versus 35 now. I'm like, I think it's really though, it's the 2 kids and the like every ounce of my time and energy that's available that I ordinarily would have used for working out, at least in part.
Right. Well, that's exactly what happens. How old are the kids now?
1 and 3.
Oh shit! Yeah, you're busy. Oh damn. Yeah. Okay, at least you don't have. Well, I bet you had 2 in diapers for a while, or did you miss was there?
Let's see. I think yes, for like
a short period.
For a couple months, we had diapers.
Okay, that's 2 months is not too bad.
2 months is not too bad. No.
All right, 3 and 1. Boy, girl. What's this?
Both boys, both very energetic, tons of fun, tons of work.
Yeah, you're right. Once you have kids, it's a completely different life. It really is. For the next 18 to 20 years, that's your entire focus, whether it's activities or whatever, right?
Yeah, I feel like I reflect on like, wow, I'm like, I used to have so much time. Like, and I used to, and like back then I was like, I don't have any time to do anything. And I'm like, now from the moment my eyes open until like the moment the kids are either dropped off at daycare or, my wife takes them out the door, it's just hectic, like all of the stuff to get up, get dressed, get food, teeth brushed, dressed, get yourself ready, like nonstop. And you're like, oh my God, I have like this now very finite period of time to get what I need done, because I'm bookended for sure. Like once the like train comes home, we're right back on that like.
And when you have a 1 and 3 year old, you can't really work. I mean, you maybe you can take a phone call here and there, but if you think you're going to sit down at your laptop and like get quality work done with a 1 and 3 year old at home, it's super hard, very difficult,
impossible. I agree.
What's your wife do?
she's a commercial designer at like a very large international architecture and design studio called
Uh-huh.
Gensler. So she
Oh,
does a lot of work for
Gensler. I know the company. Aren't they based in DC somewhere?
uh I think their like main office I thought was San Francisco, but I
Oh,
do
okay.
think they have a situation where they have like co-CEOs, and I feel like one maybe is in DC and one is in San Francisco.
I think
I
we
might
pitched.
butcher that.
Yeah, I think I pitched them at one point a few years back in DC. Yeah, but I know who you're talking about though. Oh, so but she works remotely, obviously, then, or does she?
They're like largely back in the office. I forget like what they have require some number of days, but I think she feels like she can get a lot more done when she's in there. So she's in the office most days of the week.
Now, isn't that interesting? People with little kids sometimes actually prefer to go to the office because super hard to work remotely. Right. So yeah, I get it. So they have an office in Denver. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys, by the way, we're already rolling, so we're rolling here.
Great.
Uh,
I'm into it.
how did you guys meet? Tell me again, and how long you've been married? Tell me the story there.
Oh my gosh, it's kind of a wild story. We were both in this like really cool special class in college together. It's like you
Okay.
have to be invited to it.
Okay.
It's a year long, and these executives like come in and tell you about some sort of moral dilemma that they faced in their career.
Ah,
You kind of get this like brief, like here's what I was faced with. What would you do
okay.
in my shoes? And then you kind of have to present like what you do and your thinking and logic behind it. It's called
Okay.
leadership challenges. The like namesake of Michael Leeds of the Leeds School of Business, like was co-teaching it alongside a really talented professor. And so it was this like really unique opportunity, like a year long, where you kind of got to know really a very like small group of people. I want to say there was like maybe 15 students in the class, something
Oh,
like
wow.
that.
All right.
Um, from like every major within the business school.
Okay.
And so we got to know each other kind of over the course of the year. She actually had a boyfriend most of the year, and so I was kind of like, okay, she's really cool, really interesting, but off limits. And then at some point, I kind of found out that they had broken up, and I swept in, and she felt similarly, fortunately, and we've been together ever since. So that was like
Nice.
we started dating in 2010, and here we are now,
Okay. All right.
married 7 years now, or maybe 8 years this year.
Are you from? I'm trying to remember. Were you from the West Coast originally? Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? I can't remember.
I was born in Casper, Wyoming,
Okay.
like an area probably most people don't know, right? Center of the rectangle. And then I lived there for about 10 years. My family had, homesteaded out there
Cool.
and like has been there since like the late 1800s.
Oh,
So
nice.
kind of deep family roots in Wyoming. But eventually my dad was just, and that's my dad's side of the family, he just kind of got tired of it. And we moved to Arizona when I was 10, lived in Phoenix for, about 10 years, and then moved up here for college, and I've been here ever since. Here being Boulder.
Interesting. Now, does your family have that whole Yellowstone kind of like they came out to Wyoming, Irish from Wyoming and homesteaded? Did they have that kind of?
Similar Danish though, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Although I have to say, from what I've heard about the show, this is going to be a contentious point between my wife and I, but I actually haven't seen the show, and I'm
Oh,
sure I would love it.
that's
But
kind of cool. Yeah, I got into it. My wife was like same thing. My wife's like, you need to watch this. I'm like, I don't watch a lot of TV, right? But she's like, no, you need to watch this with me. I'm like, okay, yeah, I kind of like it.
yeah, I see. I'm the opposite. I'm like, I would love it. Cowboys, I don't know, violence,
Yeah.
whatever it's about. I have almost no context. I'm just like, Wyoming ranchers. I'm in. But my wife is not into that type of like violent show, and so
Oh,
she
I
heard
see.
whispers of that, and so I'm
Uh,
like, if I start it, I'm gonna be watching it like
by
by
yourself?
myself over
Oh,
the
yeah,
course
that's
of the
not.
next 6 or 7 years. On the like odd nights, it's like just me watching TV. Like I've been watching Narcos. Like there's like what 3 seasons, 4 seasons.
And
I've
she
been
won't,
watching it for 8 years at this point. I'm still not done.
because she won't watch it. She will not watch
She
it.
won't watch it.
That's so funny you mentioned that. So when I was coming down here to Oklahoma to deal with this rental property and travel trailer, I was like, Kim, you coming? Kim's like, no, I'm not going. You just go down and take care of it. So she's at home.
And she's been at home now for about 7 days by herself. She goes, "This is so nice. I can just eat whatever I want for dinner. I can turn on the TV when I want to relax before I go to bed, and I don't have to talk to you about what we're watching. I can just do whatever I want." And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? I'm like, you're making it sound like I'm controlling, like I'm trying to control everything, which is not true. But anyway, giving my wife a hard
No,
time.
but it's just that you guys are both probably just regularly compromising and
Yes.
trying to make, trying to find the nice like average show, the nice average. Yeah.
Yeah. And I need that. I'm not, like I said, I just need usually what I need is like 30 minutes with maybe a little glass of bourbon or some wine. Just like, I just need that. I need that 30 minutes, 30, 45 minutes, like before bed, just to kind of try to get my mind off of work for a minute so I can just kind of, escape for a
Transition.
little
Yeah.
bit. I just kind of need that. I need that. I like, if not, I'm just going to work until I go to bed, which is,
Yeah.
then I don't
I
sleep.
actually do think that like transitionary moment is really, I've found that to be really important because like
Yeah.
the day is like so hectic and, you and your own business, like the day could never end if you don't put some sort of stop on it. Like,
There's no doubt.
I love what I do. Like I could keep, if I didn't have kids, I would probably work until dinner was ready or until I ordered something. And then I would,
Yep.
I don't know, do something like that right before I got to bed.
When you're
But I found like the cooking moment, like cooking food to be really valuable for that. Like,
yes, agreed.
It's work, it's something, but it's like, really like kind of peaceful transition moment between like work and then pure family time. So
especially if you got a little music playing with a little glass of wine and you're doing some
music
cooking.
one, that's exactly what it looks like in the house.
Yeah.
I don't know if peaceful is the word I would use because there's also usually like toys being thrown around.
It's so true. When you're a co-founder or owner or even an executive of the business, you're never done, right? The word done and finished really don't exist. The word stopping for the day exists, but you're never like finished. I always give my wife hell about that. She'll be like, "Are you finished?" I'm like, "What does that mean?" Like, I'm never, there's no finish. My list is forever. So I could just keep going. But if you're asking me if I'm stopping for the day, yes, I'm stopping for the day.
That is very well said.
Because it's on and on and on and on, right? If you're because you and Chris were co-founders, right? Can you remind me? Okay, yeah.
Yep.
That's what I thought. How come you don't put co-founder on your LinkedIn? Because it's just no big deal to you. You don't care about that. It doesn't matter. You just have CMO on there. I'm just curious.
I do.
Yeah, that's what it says. CMO. Yeah, it doesn't say co-founder in CMO.
That's so interesting. I think I should put it on there. I mean to have it on there. There was a brief period when we started Shinesty where I was like, almost anyone could start a business. Not everyone can be the chief marketing officer of a company.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought that like, by putting it and saying like, hey, this is a title that I have to grow into and kind of forcing, I was a co-founder. I did it. I started a company, right? Like for all intents and purposes, I could, kind of check.
Which is a big deal. Which is a big deal.
Which is a big deal. I mean, starting a company and growing a company and, making sure that it's going to be a lasting business is a different thing. But the whole thing about giving yourself a title that, some people take decades and decades to earn, mentally, I kind of wanted to fast track that. I'm like, if this is the title that I am committing to, I need to bring myself up to this level much more quickly. And so I think, maybe putting that on there and kind of forcing myself to operate at a level that I hadn't previously and needed to very quickly, especially as we started to have investors and employees and more people, kind of riding on success.
I like that. No, that's a great idea. No, I love.
I should add it back though. I'm incredibly, proud and fortunate to have co-founded this business with Chris. I actually thought I did have it on there, but
no doubt. I mean, so it's been, what has it been? 9 years? 10 years?
It's gonna be 9 years this year. 14, 6, 9 years this year. Yeah.
I mean, hey, congratulations. I mean, hey, you started a business and it's still alive 9 years later. The longer you keep your business as a founder, you grow into a more special category, right? Because it's super hard 1, 2, 3 years. I can't remember what percentage of businesses fail in the first 3 years, but it's huge. And then,
I feel like you hear like it's like 75, 80% of
Yeah,
businesses. And
yeah.
it's like
No, no
85
doubt.
or 90% of businesses within 5 years or something like that. So it's,
Yes.
yeah, it's no small feat.
Oh man, congratulations. How do you mind sharing? I know you can't share everything because it's a private company, but maybe general size at this point, like maybe how many employees? I don't know if you want to share revenue, but like how big is the company?
Yeah, we're like, I'm happy to share some broad strokes. I mean, we're in the like mid 8-figure range, and
Okay.
we have about 70-ish employees. We operate our own distribution center, so that's kind of almost like a business and a model in
Nice.
and of
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, we're really proud of that. Like
I
we've
mean,
been bigger before, we've also been smaller before, and we're feel good about where we're at.
that's great. But yeah, I don't want to go down too big of a rabbit hole here, but why do you doing your own distribution? It just works. I'm sure you've run the math upside down, inside out, sideways, whether or not to ship from California or whatever. It just works to bring it into Colorado and then ship it there. Or where are you shipping it from? Where's your distribution?
We're shipping it. We're all out of Denver.
All out of Denver.
Aside
Okay.
from like the few products we send to like Amazon fulfillment services, but uh, we kind of got there by virtue of when we started with a of vintage products, and originally we
Gotcha.
were kind of like we're gonna be like a vintage business, like
Yeah.
flipping one-off finds for various theme parties and events throughout the year. But what it meant was we had this like unique inventory situation where everything was one-on-one and there were a lot of individual products. And we also then realized, hey, the way to scale a business like this, even when we very quickly we relatively quickly got out of doing just vintage stuff, that's a very hard model to scale, but
Yes.
we were still like selling stuff for this theme party or this event, St. Patrick's Day, Valentine's Day, Mardi Gras, Derby, 4th of July, Halloween, Christmas, New Year's, like, and then getting into tailgate season and, NFL license, NCAA tailgating licenses, things like that. And so the way to scale those businesses was you had to have more holidays throughout the year and events. And then you had to have more products for every one of those. Cause like not everyone wants a, wild and crazy, suit. Some people want a shirt. Some people want a t-shirt. Some people want a button down. Some people want a long sleeve button down. Some people want shorts. And so you had this like huge, and then you have sizes when you're in apparel. And what ended up happening is you just have this huge proliferation of SKUs that made it a lot more cost effective to manage internally. It would have been kind of a nightmare to put all of that at a 3PL.
Yeah, gotcha.
And we just kind of grew into it organically. And at a certain point, we're like, oh, like we just, we started on our own. We got a little more sophisticated. There was maybe a brief point where we could have swapped to a 3PL, but we kind of pushed through that and just became experts in it. And now it's actually a pretty major advantage to have it in-house. But
are you bringing, I may have asked you this last time, are you bringing gray goods in and then dyeing and finishing in LA, or are you bringing in total finished goods from overseas? I can't remember what you're doing there.
Finished goods from overseas. Yeah, we produce all over.
They do it all the way finished all the way. And then you're bringing it into Long Beach and then shipping it to your place, or they ship it. What are you doing?
Yeah, more or less. Yep. I don't know exactly which ports we use offhand. That's a little bit it's a discipline I try to like put my blinders onto, but we have great operational folks who make sure it gets here. And
you're like, hey man,
the right cost targets.
I'm the marketing guy. Why are you asking me distribution questions?
Anyway, the product gets here and it's basically ready to sell when it arrives.
Very cool. Very good. Are you marketing and design in production, or you got somebody for design and production?
We have a design does not fit under the marketing umbrella here. Like at Shinesty, marketing is essentially like the direct consumer sales function and content function.
Okay.
The actual creative, like what the product looks like, what the prints are, the graphic design stuff, that actually sits under our really talented chief creative officer, Allie, who's been with us for basically since the beginning at this point. And
so she's grown into her spot too then.
She's grown into her spot too. Yeah. I mean, I think she came in maybe like call it maybe a year, maybe two after we started, something like that. But she's been here for a very long time. She's really been the champion of the like brand aesthetic and the prints and everything like that.
Isn't that so great to have that value in institutional knowledge? Not only institutional knowledge from a process and function perspective, but the relationship with you and Chris and just the human element, because you know each other so well. Like, okay, I can tell she's in a bad mood today, or I can tell he's in a grumpy mood, or whatever, right? Like, all that matters, right?
It does. I mean, it's easy to, it can in some ways be easy to take for granted, but you're like, oh my gosh, like you come to rely on these people and the amount of stuff that they take over and they just know how to do. And obviously, like if you've worked with someone that long, you generally have a pretty good working relationship, I would say. So we feel really fortunate, especially, with the people. We still have several folks who, were within the first 5-7 people who joined us.
That's wonderful. Brianna, who is our VP of Ops and Marketing for Riderflex, our recruiting firm, she started with me. It was me, Scott, and Brianna went to high school with my youngest son. And when we first started Riderflex, I put out like a Facebook post for local people in Johnstown, Colorado. I was like, hey, I need like some administrative help to do shit. And Spencer's like, hey, what about Brianna? I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. And she just, she was helping with miscellaneous just stuff, right? Like, post this or mail this. Here we are 7 years later. She has grown all the way into, she handles all of operations. She handles all of marketing. So very much like what you were saying, she just grew into the position from a function perspective. But the other value is she knows me, right? Like if something's going down or she sees an email or whatever, she will be like, okay, I know Steve's going to be pissed off about this, so let me just call him right now and make sure I settle him down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I think there's something really special about that. I feel like I've learned in hindsight, but like if you look at that in the same way that founders take a crazy trajectory as individuals, like yes. Early employees, I think have something very similar where, totally. Yep. At least for us, like we didn't have huge budgets to hire people who'd done it before. Like right. The guy who is now our creative director for content it was his first job out of college. The person who runs all of internal operations. We could only afford to hire her part-time to start, and she was willing to take it on like a part-time hourly basis, even though she was way more qualified than that.
That's great.
It's people who kind of like got the mission, who wanted to be part of the growth, who never kind of have been scared they've never backed down from a challenge, and they've always been willing to take on the next thing and learn and grow. Like when I look at the number of like early stage employees and like the percent of them that have just, risen to the challenge, not just in year 1 or 1 to 2 or 2 to 4, but like who are with us now, almost 9 years later. It's pretty incredible.
I mean, that's really incredible. And it speaks volumes to you and Chris and your people skills, your EQ, and your ability to make all these folks feel part of it as they grew. I mean, that's huge, man, especially in today's world. And we're in the recruiting business, right? So I know the average employee quits between 1 and 3 years. I mean, the average turnover right now in America, especially for people under 50 years old, is between 1 and 3 years. And people just quit jobs left and right like it's no big deal. Loyalty is like whatever. There are none, And so that's huge. Yeah, congratulations, man. 70 employees, 8 digits, long-term employees that grew with you from the beginning. Nice. Congratulations. Very
Thank
good.
You very much.
Remind me, have you taken on, what was the cash? Did you bootstrapped it from the beginning? Did you take on early cash? Have you taken on any recent cash? And are you going to raise cash? Give me that whole overview.
Yeah, no, Chris and I started when we were just like a couple years out of college. We didn't have deep savings to dip into. So we raised money. We raised several smaller rounds and kind of pieced them together.
Like 10 grand, here and there.
Closer to that than you might think in some cases, but yeah. So we have raised money. We have a cap table, we have a board, we have investors.
Okay. All right.
But we haven't. We really made the push. Last time we raised was in 2019, and then in 2020 we made a lot of changes to become profitable and kind of own our own destiny, and we've been profitable ever since. And so
great.
We don't have any near-term needs to raise money. We also, fortunately, by virtue of becoming profitable, by virtue of kind of expanding from some of our legacy product lines, which were a little harder for lenders to wrap their heads around, to underwear, which is our kind of largest category. and a much easier category for people to wrap their heads around. We've been able to get some of the working capital and debt instruments that have helped us continue to grow and not have to do finance working capital through raises.
Have you taken on any institutional stuff? Any VC or PE, or only like angels and family office type deal?
Mostly just like angel investors. There's a couple like VC firms, like seed funds and things like that, but predominantly angel investors. And just
you guys, are you and Chris still in control of the cap table?
I don't know.
I mean, are you majority? Like if you and Chris vote and say we want to do this, can you be outvoted, or do you and Chris have voting control?
I will say we have a very supportive board, and generally it's never been contentious. It's never really been super contentious. So we've never had to have any sort of like real showdowns of voting power, which is well, I think it's the nice thing about like, not that we set out to only raise money from that type of investor, but we have investors who are patient, who see the value in sustainable growth, and therefore we haven't had to make any sort of like, there haven't been any crazy power struggles or like huge
that's good.
Differences in opinion on how we should grow and how fast and whatnot.
That's good. I mean, we've had a shit ton of people from Boulder and Colorado on the Riderflex show, and that topic comes up. I've had I'd say it's a 50-50 split when people borrow money and they have to give up control of the cap table. When they lose, if somebody else takes over 51%, I've had a lot of people say, hey, look, I got a great VC partner and it's the best thing we ever did, and we were able to scale the company, blah, blah, blah. I've had about 50% of the people say, holy fucking shit, man, it's the worst thing I ever did. I lost control of the company. They're assholes now. They were great at the beginning. Yeah. So I've seen both.
I've also heard both, and I think if you don't get along with the people that you work with, especially at that level, or that you ultimately report to, like that's tough.
That's tough.
That make a hard job unenjoyable.
Yeah, if you're listening, my advice based on all the people that have been on the show would be try really hard, if you can, to take money from people that you've known for a while or that pretty well. Just going out to San Francisco and taking money from a VC firm that you've known for like 3 weeks, it's just, boy, scary. You need to know who you're crawling in bed with, because literally, I mean, you're going to be in bed with them, and so you got to be careful. But hey, you've grown the business pretty damn well for not taking on huge amounts of money. I mean, that's another big factor. Have you had, I'm sure you've had some phone calls with people. Hey, you guys for sale? You guys want to sell this thing? I'm sure you get calls.
We do get calls. We do get calls and offers. Haven't gotten the call or the offer, I will say. No, I mean, we've been in it for a while, but we love what we do. So we're in no rush to change anything material on that end.
Yeah, good.
Obviously, we have raised money. We have a lot of our close friends and family that have investments in this company. So at some point, we'd like to make sure they get a really nice return on their money. But we're in a tricky part of the cycle, most likely. We also see a ton of avenues for growth in the company and some really big opportunities for us. So we also don't want to do anything preemptively when we still, I feel like we've got a lot of fuel in the tank.
Same answer me and Scott give. We every once in a while we're not nearly as big as you guys are, but we're into a few $1 million a year now as a recruiting firm. So once you get up to $2, $3, $4 million a year, then you get a few phone calls, and people always be like, "Are you, would you be interested in selling it?" And I'm like, "Hey, look, here's my short answer. It's always for sale if for the right number. So I'm happy to have a conversation, but I don't have a pitch deck prepared to like send you or anything. I'm not on a road show to try to sell.
Yeah, exactly.
And same thing, we're just having fun. We're having fun doing it. Scott and I talk about that, and people always ask us, "Well, what's your plan? Are you going to do that?" I'm like, "Look, here's the deal, man. We're having a great time running the company. It's fun to own a company and run it. We're building it. It's growing. That's cool. If we can keep doing that, I'm happy with that. If somebody wants to write me a big ass retirement check, I'm happy to have that conversation too.
Yeah, it's nice to not feel in a rush. This is I think
Right.
Chris quote. He's like, it's a lot better to get bought than to be sold.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that one like stuck in him. Good one.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much truth to that. Like, if someone gives you the right offer, great, but hopefully you're not out there just actively trying to be sold. Hopefully you have something that you love that, gets you out of bed in the morning, that if you have to work late at night, you're doing it for the right reasons, you enjoy it. So
there's another great tip for the listeners. If you are doing something that you don't really love and that you're not passionate about and that you don't think is fun, do something else. I mean, quit your job, because for many years when I was young, I chased the title and I chased the dollar amount. And I didn't really worry about whether or not it was fun or whether or not I enjoyed it, right? I didn't even think that way. I was just like, okay, how much more can I make so I can pay this mortgage on this house, blah, blah, blah. Now at this age, if I'm not having fun, I'm not doing it. I don't care what it pays. I mean, somebody could be like, hey, close down Riderflex and move to like Buffalo and be a CEO for 400 grand a year. I'd be like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, there's something really interesting that once you have, I mean, it's so true, right? At a certain level, more money doesn't necessarily mean more happiness. Once a certain threshold is met.
Yes.
And I think about that too. I'm like, hey, if the main thing, you have, if your kind of necessities are met, is your time. And your time is so finite. I don't want to spend it doing tasks I don't love. I don't want to spend it doing tasks that I don't think are going to drive the business forward. I don't want to spend it sitting in traffic. I don't want to spend it doing anything that takes away from the already, finite amount of time I have in the mornings and evenings with my family. So, optimization of time becomes way more important than money.
No doubt about it. You said it perfectly. Time is critical. And after you reach a certain threshold, I think I actually saw a stat on that. I think across America, on average, once you reach 100 grand a year currently, I mean, we're recording this in 2023, it's all relative, but once you reach 100 grand a year, people start to get into okay, now I know, okay, I can pay insurance. I got health care. I got a decent car to drive. I have a decent house to live in. I got food, water, shelter, love. Okay, I'm good, right? I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right, because I think a couple of years ago it was in the I want to say it was lower than I thought. I'm like, no, it was $72,000, but that was also before several years of pretty
that might be
inflation. So I could see it being a lot higher.
It is true though. You're so right. I mean, but
I graduated out of college now for 15 years, but the number of friends I had that took jobs in industries that have a lot of capital to throw at people, but churn and burn them through, the number of people, almost nobody stuck with those big type of consulting roles, finance roles, oil and gas. A lot of the people who took the job for the paycheck burned out within a couple of years. And then fortunately, most of the 5 or 6 data points I'm thinking about in my head, I'm like, they have all landed in careers that they absolutely love and they have amazing potential, but every one of those people was willing to take a huge step back to find an industry or a role that they actually loved, even if it meant less take home
and have a life, great work-life balance,
Yeah.
One of the things I love most about owning my own business, I don't have to ask anybody, right? if I want to get in my Jeep and go to the mountains on Friday afternoon, I don't have to call anybody.
Get in your RV and go to Oklahoma to sit outside. Yeah.
Exactly. I don't have to ask anybody. I love that. I always tell my wife, I'm like, if I ever have to ask somebody again if I can go on vacation, I'm gonna stick needles in my eyeballs. No.
Yeah. It's funny because it's not the reason I wanted to start a business, but it's now one of the reasons why the exact same way I wouldn't take another role. I would be like, no, well, I don't want to work for someone else. No. I like the flexibility. I like to.
Flexibility is more valuable than I can put a number on. I was talking about Brianna earlier. I have a funny story for you. Last year, I think, because she's responsible for tracking like PTO hours and vacation hours for everybody.
Yeah.
She emails me. She's like, I just want to let you know that you've reached your PTO, hours for the year. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, well, thanks for the information. If I want to be off, I'm going to be off, but thank you.
Noted. I'll take that into consideration.
Yeah, it's so good. Oh man. Well, let's talk about the product and the business here a little bit. So, for the listeners, and I know I've been chatting with Jens, but let me make sure. Shinesty.com. By the way, I love your current header. Fuck off, Cupid. We got this. I love it. Now you don't have the letter U in there, but still, everybody knows.
It's a brand, it's edgy, it's irreverent, but it also has kind of mainstay products. So it's definitely for people who have a sense of humor, even if they only want to wear black underwear at this point. But yeah, we try to make folks laugh every time, and we know we're not for everyone. We think brands in the middle are where they go to die, and that headline is a perfect example.
A great headline. I love it. It's powerful. Give people a quick overview for anybody listening that may not know about the brand yet. I know you've done this a million times, but just give us like a 3-minute, about Shinesty. Go for it.
Yeah, we're an irreverent brand of apparel, primarily underwear at this point. It's about the softest, most supportive underwear. If you're a guy, it's the softest and most supportive underwear you can buy. We've got a little thing that we call the ball hammock, which kind of just supports everything, makes you feel nice and secure all day long. It's kind of it's one of the game-changing things that if you haven't tried it, you should. We also make women's underwear, which is just as comfortable and soft. And our designers, I have to give them a ton of credit because the things that they put on the underwear, the designs, you have to see it to believe it. I could try to describe them here and be like, what are you like? You should go to the site. You should experience them. There's so much devil in the details, but if prints aren't for you, there's also the mainstay solids and things like that. That's underwear has, and kind of underwear adjacent products have been the main product story now for, close to 3 or 4 years, probably. But before that, and if you visit the site, you'd be like, whoa, there's a lot more product categories than underwear. And that's kind of speaking to, I refer to them as our legacy product lines, but they're the ones that we initially got traction with and we initially started building the business around. Call them apparel for theme parties and events, but it's everything that might help you go out and have the best Christmas party of all time, the best time to tailgate, and that's still a huge portion of the overall products on the site.
Right now, for example, you got the Valentine's Day stuff, the St. Patrick's Day.
Yep,
gotcha. I got you. Okay, so you still can do the themes, but you can also buy the everyday stuff, and it's mainly underwear and related products. So underwears, bras, t-shirts, but no robes I see. Okay. What is the ski suits? What the hell is that? What is that? What do you mean ski suit? What is that?
That's a sneaky little awesome category in there. I mean, they are water resist, high end, basically performance materials, but they look like some of the best patterns of ski suits ski onesies, ski suits, whatever you want to call them, ever appeared in the 80s or 90s.
Now that's a
all
jump.
Skiers and snowboarders out there.
I'm looking at the photos online right now. Now that's a jump. That's kind of a jump for you, isn't it? Is that you're venturing off a little bit there for the
ski?
Yeah,
that is actually one of the original product lines, dating back to even when we were first started out selling vintage only product. Ski suits was one of the very first categories, because when we started out, we weren't really sure, hey, is it going to be this sort of theme party event or that theme party event? Is it going to be a ski suit or a windbreaker? Is it going to be shorts versus t-shirts? And so we had this huge need for lots of different products within all of these different themes. And ski suits was one of the early leads. I mean, it's got a price point that really lets you make a great product and put enough marketing dollars behind it to actually acquire someone. But that is those are actually one of the oldest product categories on the site.
And if you're up at Breckenridge and you see a Shinesty ski suit, you probably know, because it's going to be funky colors, it's going to be loud. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Either you're like, I don't know, is Evil Knievel back? You got the USA styles, or most of them are kind of the like bright and tight, neon throwbacks like
Oh,
the
I
80s,
love it.
early
I love
90s.
it. I love it. So you're selling a bunch direct to consumer on your website. Are we in retailers? Is it on Amazon? What are we doing there?
Yeah, we're still predominantly direct through the website. People, I still think that's the best place to buy it. There's the largest selection. We offer a really great subscription, so people can kind of turn over their underwear drawer over time and get a really great deal on it. That's really really popular. But we also have an Amazon presence that's great. That's growing, and we are just starting to dip our toes into the wholesale side of the business.
Oh yeah,
So
where are you so far?
if you want to look for our products, we are in a number of Zoomies locations. We're actually in a group called Lion's Den, which is a series of like adult stores.
Okay. Okay.
And
Lions Den, adult stores. I was gonna
Lion's
say,
Den adult
yeah,
stores, which is
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
a crazy one, but that was like inbound. They've done really well there. But many, many more to come. There's a lot of kind of lions getting put into the water across different like verticals, from outdoor to department to
Have you thought about
all.
opening up a like your own little brick and mortar retail shop, maybe in Vegas?
And we
I'm thinking
also are
Vegas.
looking,
Yeah.
we're also looking into that.
I
We
would think
haven't done it.
Vegas
We've
would be
not
Vegas
done
would be
that
good.
yet,
No,
but
okay, all
quite
right.
possibly it could be a this year thing or early next year.
If you get the right location, yeah,
Exactly.
or maybe have you thought about a store within a store shop and like I don't know why I keep thinking that Vegas with your product, but something like in an edgy shop where you have like a store within a store, you have like a section.
I love that. If we found the right opportunity, I definitely think we'd be into that. It's interesting because it's like it's not a. I mean, if we're talking underwear and like similar size accessories, you don't need a huge storefront, right?
Right,
Like, you
right,
want to
right.
have a
Yeah, yeah.
1,500 square foot like mall store. Like that's way too much space
You're way
for
too much.
a
Yep,
product.
yep,
Like
yep,
people aren't going in and trying underwear on. Like you
yep,
can't do that. You can't do that and put it back on the shelf. So you don't need a huge footprint for this type of product.
yeah.
So store is a great idea.
I love it. The edginess of the brand
Yeah.
is really just speaks to who you are, right? Like I mean, I'm sure the quality of the product is great, the designs are great, but the edginess of the marketing, what Jens is responsible. I mean, it really just completely sets you apart from everybody else. Um, you are always pushing do you feel like you're always pushing the envelope? Are you always like, okay, I'm going to get up to the edge of the cliff, but I don't want to fall off like you?
I do. I would say the creative team does a good job of like walking a pretty fine line, and every once in a while I'll see something and be like, "Whoa, we put that out." Okay, all right. I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see if our
Uh,
understanding of the guardrails is
uh,
accurate, or if our definition needs to be expanded. So yeah, every once in a while to find the line, you have to go over it or under it, and then you're like, oh, that was too soft, or okay, that was
have you
maybe.
ever, how many
Oh.
times have you walked through the design room or whatever and you're like, no, we're not putting, no, veto.
Uh, Well, with the product team, I actually don't do that. I let the really talented minds over there do that. On the marketing side, I would say like we also have a team that has just grown so much. Probably 60% of the like creative marketing team.
Okay.
It's their first role out of college, but most of them, like I said, they've been here with us so long now. They understand like what's inbounds and out of bounds, and
Okay.
every once in a while, I'll get one of those like, "Can we do this?" And I'll be like, "Ooh, I love that. Of course you can do that." Or sometimes I'm like, well, maybe we need to like, what if we tone this part down and make it? But for it in general, they are really good at kind of,
Okay.
pushing the bounds, but also knowing like where the right places to push are, or the wrong places to push are.
Is this a fair question? Maybe this is too edgy of a question for the podcast. We can cut this out if you want. Have you ever thought about stepping over the line into showing parts of bodies or anything like, okay, I'm going to show like a little nipple here or anything? Have you ever edged into that or no?
No is the short answer. Like it, I mean, I don't know what that would gain us. It would only probably cause like
More
hardship in terms
hardship.
of like
Okay.
you can't use that imagery in advertising, and advertisers who link to a site that has nudity, like you could, have all of your ads and your accounts rejected.
Okay.
So no, that hasn't, I mean, certainly not part of a purposeful strategy, but also not something I think we'd venture into.
Okay. And have you ever been has Facebook ever been like, okay, yeah, I saw your post about, fuck this, Cupid, we got it, and they're pulling you down, or they turned you off temporarily, any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say actually, Facebook, I think, is probably the most like reasonable and sophisticated in terms of like saying, hey, this is okay, but this is too far. They are very, very, very good at it.
Okay.
And I would also say really fair. There are a lot of other marketing channels that I would just say, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, we can't say that, we can't do that. Like, what can we do? Like, that's, and I get it. We push the bounds too, but we also know there are some places where you cannot push the bounds, and channels where like we have to really, really, really tone it back. And like, I'm regularly surprised. I mean, I'm going to say this, like we send a catalog. It's great. That's what I'm hearing. They're hilarious. I probably have like,
cool.
Try to put it in front of my face. They're funny. They're edgy. But like a very large data company is like, well, we can't work with you guys anymore. It's too edgy.
Really?
And yeah. And that's definitely like the extreme exception. Ordinarily, we're just kind of balancing like, okay, this ad was rejected for this reason. We'll go back and edit it. It will be approvable. But that's part of the challenge of like pushing the line and using humor, sometimes sexual humor, as part of your like core marketing. There's a fine line, and there's the line there are the lines that we impose on ourselves, but then there are those are not the lines that everyone plays by.
It's interesting that it's that picky with some channels. Meanwhile, in the big scheme of things with regards to the internet, anybody can pull up a porn clip in seconds.
Right.
So Google and the United States and the feds or whoever, they let that flow on the internet freely. In fact, I read a stat the other day that porn was like 30% of all searches flowing into Google related to porn. And they let that flow. And by the way, it's on Twitter too. You can pull up nudity on Twitter anytime you want. But yet you guys will like say something in your content and somebody's like giving you a hard time. It's like, what? Really?
Yeah. I mean, like, look, we're not trying to alienate people. We are a for-profit business that is trying to be bigger all the time. We are,
Yeah.
The wrong thing for us to do would be to piss people, like everyone, off to the point where they're like, okay, I'll never visit that site. I don't like that brand. I want to report them so I don't see their ads. Like that would work against us. So we do self-police ourselves a lot.
Gotcha.
But you just have people who have like, I would say extremely conservative tastes, and who will say that like any image with underwear on it is tantamount like pornography. Okay, I guess you haven't seen like most. I guess you haven't came out of the cave in a while. So
you're highlighting how old I am. I remember I'm 55. So when I was a kid and a teenager, there was no internet. And man, we'd get those Sears Roebuck catalogs in. We'd get those catalogs. We'd go to the bra section. Me and my brother would be like, look at that one. And
I think when we on the backs of like these types of mailers, it'll say like for the home of 1608 Drive or whatever like that. We'll sometimes put like, you can probably find this under your kid's mattress at
that's cool.
Yeah. For the primary bathroom of the address.
I love that. Do you get any super religious conservative moms groups? I shouldn't have highlighted moms in general, but do you get any Karens? You get any Karens like, oh my God, your brand, la la la. You get some of that?
I think every brand probably gets that for one reason or another. I mean, we certainly do. We have over time gotten people who are like staunchly opposed, which is we actually is okay. Like, we don't want to oppose, we don't want like to alienate a, huge tranches of the public, or we're trying to be a big business. But like, we really believe that brands in the middle, that's kind of where you go to die. So if you're not like really potentially pissing some people off, you're also not really making certain people absolutely love you.
Good point.
And what ends up happening is that, every once in a while somebody will have a Karen type moment.
Yep.
And they'll say something, and you wouldn't believe the number of people who kind of rush in to be like, okay, chill out, like, this brand's hilarious, lighten up. Like,
lighten up.
Because we have those like really devout customers, the people who love the, like, the comedy, the humor, the lightheartedness of it. You have those people really step up and express how much they love it as a result, as a reaction to the people who really do not like it.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. What are your thoughts on, this could be a rabbit hole, but I want to get this in here. Based on that kind of topic, what is your personal belief on cancel culture, or the ability of people to just cancel groups or cancel brands or cancel a person, and social media channels just turning people off because they don't agree with that narrative? What are your thoughts, Jens? Do you want to comment on it?
It's a loaded question, so I don't want to rush into it.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
It's such a case by case basis, and generally, I feel like as a population, like, there's probably in a lot of cases some truth to the reason cancel culture exists. There always is a good reason behind that, but I think oftentimes, like, the story is more complex. And don't get me wrong, I think there are absolutely people who've been canceled who I'm like, absolutely cancel those people. Like, what they did was completely out of line. But what does concern me is when, people see or hear one thing, they don't get the full story. There's obvious like vents in different media, and where sometimes we may not get the whole story. I'm saying that, like, the Kanye West thing was a fairly recent thing, and like he said he said a lot of objectively terrible, super cancelable things. And I was like, this guy also has like mental health problems. Like, this is, I don't know that we should be giving this guy the soapbox for this type of stuff. Like, he's having a moment. I also like, and so I'm like, okay, I hate what he's saying. I in some ways maybe he should be canceled, but this is also a person who's not mentally stable. Like, we gotta do something a little different for that. I don't know, very, very complex topic. Generally, like, when I feel like people have betrayed my trust or betrayed the people's trust, I'm like, you got to face the consequences. So I think in general, there's truth to those things, but I just would, push everyone to try to be as fully informed on every topic as possible, because often first thing you see or what you think, there might be some more to it. And in some cases, there just isn't. There just is not. It's such a case by case basis, but.
Yeah. People just read the headlines, right? Nobody reads anymore. I mean, nobody reads the paragraph. They read the headline and then they rush to judgment. Right. It's so true. I don't know how many times I have put out a post and I'll have a headline and then I'll have maybe a paragraph, right? And somebody will say something to me, making a judgment on it because they disagree. And I'll come back to them. I'll be like, did you read the entire post? Because your point is addressed in paragraph 2.
Yeah,
but no,
that's
that's
so valid. Or like, I don't know, like, we had this print and someone emailed about it. It's a Valentine's Day print, and it's of like, you go to like CVS or Walgreens and you like walk in and there's the Valentine's Day aisle, right? That rotating aisle that always has the next like season 2 months early.
Yeah.
And it's filled with like chocolates and like, those cheesy teddy bears and things like that, right?
Yep.
And we have this print with like teddy bears in different sexual positions. And we're like, oh, that's like very much like, you see those like date movies where the guy on the date wins the teddy bear and hands it to the girl, or like, it's that a cheesy ironic gift that people give at Valentine's Day to their loved their significant other.
Yeah.
And somebody wrote in there like, oh my gosh, this is like basically the equivalent of what Balenciaga was trying to do, and like basically is trying to get like kids and their teddy bears look at like
Oh, I see.
crotch of grown adults. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's so not the intent or inspiration.
Let me guess. You had to take them down. You had to take the display down.
No, we don't. We disagree with that comment, but that's like one of those things where people can come at the same issue from very different points of view.
Yes. I don't know how we'll wrap that particular topic up with, I would say in general, I don't know how we got so sensitive. I blame social media, actually. Like the sensitivity of people, and I got my feelings hurt or I'm offended. That, in my opinion, is just completely out of hand. I mean, it has gotten completely out of hand. It's like, damn, I wouldn't want to be a comedian. What if you were a comedian for a living? Like, what are you going to say? You can't say anything because somebody's going to be offended.
It's fascinating. I almost feel like the comedians have like started to figure out how to like take it back. Like like when Dave Chappelle was basically in cancel culture court, and like
yeah,
it's like, and Netflix had to step up and give their opinion on it. Like
yes.
No, I don't envy. I feel like they have to toe a very, 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 very fine line that I don't envy.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're polarized. People take things, very seriously.
I know.
Maybe more seriously than in the past.
They definitely do, and I think my advice to anybody listening is, just calm down. Just calm down. Just relax. Like, look, and I kind of touched on this earlier. Do you have food, water, shelter, love, a car to drive? Okay, when you open your fridge, is there a beer in there? Okay, cool. Stop like letting your entire day getting blown up because somebody on Twitter said something that hurt your feelings. Like, please, man, get over yourself.
I mean, so many things have become, highly biased or politicized. And I think the way that, messages and media gets distributed too has this kind of
yes,
self-selecting bias to it, where like
yes.
the more you absorb types of content, the more you get served that types of content.
Yes.
And it just creates this cycle where you see more of the stuff that you tend to agree with.
Yep.
And I always try to do this to myself. It can be very hard, but like sometimes it's like, okay, this is what I think about this, but I'm going to try to like take the contrarian opinion and say like, why could my opinion on this be wrong?
Yeah.
How might someone else take this? And it's a hard exercise. It's an important one. Not always right on it. Sometimes you take that opinion, you're like, okay, I just disagree with that. Or sometimes you take it and you're like, actually, maybe we should think about that. Like that's a reasonable, viewpoint that someone else is going to take. How can we, change what we do today to be better for more people? But I hope a lot of people will either like search out more unbiased, factual sources of information, or at least, kind of say like, hey, maybe I disagree with, but is there any truth in the message on the other side? Are there, elements or nuggets of that I should take into my viewpoint, or at least acknowledging the bias that we all inherently have, or in the media that we tend to consume?
Well said, my friend. Or at least try to understand, at least ask some questions and listen and try to understand. And most importantly, just because your friend sitting with you at the bar having a beer thinks the color purple is better than the color green, like you can still be friends. You can still have a beer. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, even the people I'm closest with, Chris, my like business husband, basically my actual wife, we don't agree on every single topic. Like that's just not the way humans are wired. But you have to be able to like, separate differences of opinions from like, you can't take those things personally, and you're going to say like, hey, we aren't going to agree on everything. That's totally fine. We agree on most things. We agree on the important things. And that's okay. That's totally natural.
Yep, totally agree, man. Well said, my friend. Jens, your brand is awesome. I mean, I just want to wrap this up. I know we're out of time. The brand is so unique and special to the marketplace. What you're doing really is different. Everybody always wants to be how can I differentiate myself in the marketplace? And not only is it great clothes, great designs, great feel, great quality, but it's fun, it's entertaining. Your people that buy your product feel like they're part of a group. And you've been doing it for 9 years now. I mean, congratulations, man.
Thank you very much. That means a lot. We put a ton of hard work and effort into making the brand memorable, special, funny. And so it's really nice to be acknowledged for that. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you being on the show, my friend. We'll talk again soon.
Likewise. Thanks so much, Steve.